Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to be more confident. Now, this is a video that a lot of people have asked for, so I am delivering it. It is a video about how to be more confident. I think that's one of the biggest issues that people have when they learn magic. One of the questions that comes up over and over again on this channel is, I love magic, I want to perform, but I'm not confident enough to go out and perform, even to family and friends. Just the thought of it fills me with dread, and it's beyond nerves. I've talked about nerves before, and I've done videos on how to deal with nerves. This video isn't about how to deal with nerves. This video is how to actually have the confidence to go out and perform for people, whether that be a paid gig, whether that be friends and family, whether that be your neighbor, your sister, your cousin, your mate down the pub, whatever it may be. This video is about how to be more confident, because the thing is, magic is a wonderful hobby. It really is. And if you're the sort of person that just wants to learn magic and learn moves and never perform for people, that's absolutely fine. But one of the joyous, most wonderful things about magic is performing to people and seeing their reaction. You know, I speak to Sarah, my wife, all the time, and I say, what do you like about magic the best? And she said, I love it when I watch you perform, or I watch Ryland perform, and I see the reaction that people have when they see him perform. And it's so true. And it's, you know, if you're not performing because you're not confident enough to perform, then you need to fix that, okay? And hopefully there's maybe some tips in this video that might help you become more confident. So let's count them down. Let's look at a few different ways of increasing your confidence level. Okay, so the first thing is strip it back and go back to basics. Now, what I mean by that, because that's a very odd thing to say, strip it back and go back to basics. What I mean by that is, don't try and do anything difficult. Don't try and be a move monkey. Try and do something that's going to get a great reaction, but it is completely self-working. I speak to a lot of people and they ask me the question, I don't feel confident enough performing in front of people. And I say to them, okay, so what are you going to do? And they come up with this list of, right, I'm going to do this routine. I'm like, okay, so what's that routine? Well, I start with a pass, and then I do this, and then I do a longitudinal steal, and then I go into this and that and the other. I'm like, man, no wonder you're not feeling confident. Those are really tricky moves. Those are very, very tricky moves to get away with in front of a real audience, especially when you haven't got any experience performing in front of a real audience. If you want to become confident at performing, and you ultimately want to, perform all these knuckle-busting sleights, start by just getting confident going out there and performing. And I had a conversation with one of the gold members that I mentor in my NETRIX program, who was struggling with a similar thing to this. And I said, what I want you to do is go out and do a completely self-working trick. And what I mean by self-working is a routine that literally doesn't even involve you picking up a pack of cards. And I said, look, do this. Take an envelope, put a playing card in there, and put a question mark on the front. And then set up a deck of cards so the force card is on top of the deck. And what I want you to do is I want you to go out and I want you to say to somebody, I've got a prediction here, take it. And then I want you to get somebody to open up the deck of cards, and I want you to get somebody to cut the deck, and then you pick up the rest of the cards and you mark the cards. In other words, you're doing a cross-cut force. And then have that time misdirection in there, talk about how you gave an envelope out at the beginning and that there's no way you could know where they cut to, and, you know, fill it up with presentation, and then have them open up the envelope and take out the prediction, which is going to be the time misdirection, and then have them cut to the card, look at the card they cut to, and it's going to be the same card. And I said, do that, because there's no skill in that whatsoever. There's nothing. You don't even need to touch the props really, other than completing the crosscut force. There's nothing you need to do. And he's like, that's really simple, isn't it? That's like a little bit too simple. I'm like, no, because you know what? With magic, you can make it as difficult or as simple as you want to. I've got a friend that is a professional magician, that has been a professional magician for 20 years and can't even do any sleight of hand, can't vanish a coin, can't do a double lift. But you know what? He presents really well and he sells every single routine he does. And that's all he needs to do. And that's it. That's what you need to do. You need to get confident going out and performing to people. So the first piece of advice I can give you is don't go and try and do difficult stuff. Don't go and do routines that are ridiculously difficult. If you've never performed in front of people before and you start getting nervous the second you start performing in front of people, then just strip it all back. Start with something simple, because to a layperson, to a muggle, to a non-magical folk, to somebody who's never actually experienced live magic before, they're going to be blown away, regardless of whether it's a crosscut force or a Zarrow shuffle or all points in between. So first of all, just pick a routine that's completely self-working and get some experience going out there and doing it to real people. Because part of the thing is it becomes infectious. When you start performing to people and you get that reaction, it's almost like a drug. You want it again, you want it again, you want it again. And it forces you to go out there and kind of try different routines and different tricks. But don't make it too clever. Keep it really simple. The second point I'd make is don't compare yourself to other magicians. One of the things that I've noticed, and this happens a lot, and I've seen this a lot on the channel when people speak to me, is they say, oh, I don't feel confident performing because I'm not very good. I'm not good enough. I'm like, yes, you are. Show me a trick. And they show me a trick and it's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I'm like, why would you say that you're not good enough? And they turn around to me and they go, oh, because I've seen this magician on Penn and Teller, and I've seen this magician on Britain's Got Talent, and I've seen this magician and that magician, and they're amazing, and I'm never going to be at that level. And you know what you need to understand is you're never going to be the best Shin Lim. You're never going to be the best Greg Wilson. You're never going to be the best David Regal, because the best David Regal is David Regal. The best Greg Wilson is Greg Wilson. The best Shin Lim is Shin Lim. But what you can do that nobody else can do is you can be the best you. And it comes back to the fact that just because they do some amazing magic doesn't mean that you can't find your own style. There's millions of people who want to learn to play football professionally here in the UK, right? They don't go, oh, I'm never going to learn how to play football. I'm never going to have that aspiration of being a professional. They never go down and go, oh, I'm not going to go down the park and have a kick around on a Sunday because I'm never going to be as good as Cristiano Ronaldo or whatever. They don't do that. That's not important to them. It's the same with magic. And this whole thing is a little bit imposter syndrome. It's kind of like, why do I deserve to be in the position that I am? And I get that, because I get that, to be honest. I get that. I know a lot of professional magicians, not just magicians, but performers and business people that have serious major imposter syndrome, right? Don't worry about it. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Don't try and be the best version of somebody else. Try to be the best version of you. Find your own way. The next point I can give you is practice, because practice, is important, because when you practice something, you're going to be much better at it than if you didn't practice. But not only is it important to practice, but you want to practice, which sounds ridiculous. But you know what? I've heard people give advice on various different channels and various different books. I've seen this advice all the time. Have times throughout the day that is allocated to practice, and then practice at those times. And that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous advice, because the thing is, ultimately, magic is a hobby. Yes, you might have aspirations to make it more than a hobby, and there's lots of people out there that have made it more than a hobby. But the thing is, because it's a hobby ultimately, it's a hobby for me. Ultimately, because it's a hobby, you want to have fun doing it. You want to enjoy doing it. And if you set regimented times throughout the day when you're going to practice, you're gonna feel like you have to practice just because it's it's 4 o'clock, I'm gonna have to go and practice now, and you're gonna feel almost bitter towards practicing, and it's something you're not going to want to do. I don't set myself times throughout the day to practice. I just kind of practice when I feel like it. And if I don't feel like it, I'm not going to practice, because it's going to be something that you want to do. It's got to be something that you love to do. And a lot of the time when people aren't confident, it's because they've not practiced. And one of the reasons people don't practice is because they don't know how to practice properly. And maybe that can be a subject to another video. But one thing that's important is not to set times. Not to set times, because you never know what's going to be happening. You might have had some bad news. You might have had an argument with your wife. You might have had a million things that are going on, and you kind of go, oh, no, I've got to practice now. It's never going to do any good. Practice when you want to practice, not because you have to practice, not because the times that your alarm on your phone says that you've got to practice now. Practice because that's something that you want to do. Get flight time. That's also really important. Get flight time. Go out there and perform as much as you can. Let's go back to what I said at the very beginning of this list, which is pick a self-working trick and just go out and perform it, right? Once you've done that, there's no reason why you can't go out and do that and do a really good job of it. There's no moves. There's literally nothing that will stop you. It's not like you're going on stage to 1,000 people or anything like that. You just show one person a trick that you don't have to do anything with. And then, after that, show somebody else the trick. Then show somebody else the trick. Then show somebody else the trick. Then pick up another trick and do that same thing again and again and again. And ultimately, what you want to do is you want to just basically work up to a point where you're performing material that you're happy to perform. Because when you first start going out there, you might not be performing material that you want to perform. You might think, well, okay, this is fine, but this is not the type of performer that I want to be. No problem. What you're doing is you're building yourself up to that level. And there's no experience with than flight. There's nothing more important than experience or flight time. Going out and performing a trick 1,000 times, going out and performing a trick 2,000 times. You'll learn all of the moves, all of the nuances, all of the subtleties, all the little lines and the bits of business that will take it from being a good trick to an absolute first-class miracle that nobody in the world can do but you, because you've honed it over perfection over the previous weeks, months and years. So once you've got that experience performing, go out and perform as much as you can, because you'll become more confident then. And then when you start to become more confident, you can then go and perform to complete strangers. And then eventually you'll be able to build yourself up to working at a gig. But don't try and skip the steps. Okay, don't go, okay, I'm really nervous, but I'm going to jump straight in at the deep end and I'm going to perform for, whatever it may be. I'm going to go on stage in front of 1,000 people. Because that's too much of a leap. Now, I talk about, jumping in at the deep end, but it's not a great thing to do in every situation. Sometimes going through the steps is the best thing to do, because then you'll get better over time. It's very important that. I did a video on this channel a few months ago, and you can go back and check it out if you search on YouTube for how to never screw up a magic trick, Magic TV. How to never screw up a magic trick. That was what the video was called. And it's all about having outs for your magic. And what I mean by that is examining all the tricks that you do and figuring out how they go wrong, and then what you can do to fix them if they do go wrong. And the reason behind that is people don't ever make good decisions when they're stressed. When they're stressed, they never make good decisions. So the way to eliminate that stress is to make the decision before the stressful situation happens. So in other words, if you screw up a trick, it's a stressful situation. How do you deal with it? You don't know. But if you figure out all the different ways that a trick can go wrong, and then you think about what you can do to fix that if it does go wrong before it happens, then you're never going to get stressed. I'm not going to go into this anymore because there's an entire video on Magic TV that talks about this. But ultimately, the most important thing is examining all the material that you're happy with and thinking about ways that you can actually fix it if it goes wrong, because then you'll never be nervous about doing a trick, because you know what to do. If the worst happens and you end up screwing it up, you'll know what you need to do because you've thought about it beforehand. And the final and the most important thing is have fun. You've got to have fun. At the end of the day, magic is fun. You want to have fun performing these things, right? Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. I can't stress that enough. It's so important to have a good time when you're out there performing. And if you stress yourself out and you're really nervous and you're really stressed, you're never going to go out and perform. It's always going to be 5 steps backwards for 1 step forward. So remember, it's a hobby. Have fun with it. So there you go, guys. That's another video in the bag. And as I say, this one is all about being more confident. I hope it helped. Another couple of videos you can watch on the channel is the one that I mentioned earlier, which is how to never screw up a magic trick. You can check that out in the playlist. And also another one is how to cope with nerves and anxiety as a professional magician. And that's another one that you should look at as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like I say, this is a fantastic hobby and you really should be going out there and performing. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. As normal, if you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. And if you haven't already done so, please go and check out the NETRIX. I have people asking me on this channel all the time, how can I support you for putting out all this content? Just try bronze membership and see what you think. You know, I would love more people to be on the NETRIX. So if you want to try it out, I would love to have you there. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.